Sorry. All right, I call this meeting of the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission to order. We're here in City Council Chambers of Cottage Grove. It's Thursday, December 1st. It's our last meeting of the year. So, Mark, would you do the roll call for us tonight?
Yes, Chair and Council, Commission members, Chair James.
Here.
Vice Chair Bloom.
Here.
Treasurer Date.
Here.
Secretary Rom.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Patrick Downs, Commissioner Patrick Downs.
Present.
And alternates, Councilmember Dave Beatty
Here.
and Randy Olson.
Here.
We also have present our attorney, Mike Bradley, myself, Mark Martinez, Executive Director. We're also joined this evening by Commission staff, Lonnie Garland and Ann Schweisguth. And Lisa Senapol is our cable caster in the booth this evening. Thank you.
Good. So we have quorum to conduct business
We have a
tonight.
quorum.
Excellent. All right, so I'd be looking for a motion and second to approve the agenda that we've all received.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Since I don't see any members of the public, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. I'd be looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda? Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to the heart of things. So, reports. Mr. Executive Director, I'll give you the floor here for your report.
Yes, Chair. I'll try to keep it short, as we have a lot on our agenda this evening. Did want to mention in the capital projects, we were able, with Lonnie Garland's leadership, to complete the St. Paul City Hall project. That's an update from what was in the packet. So we have completed our member city projects for the year. I also wanted to point out, under franchise renewal, that we do have a new Comcast meeting scheduled for December 14th coming up. Turning to page 2. The HR committee convened on the 18th to discuss, as directed by the executive committee, to look at payroll and adjustments that we're planning to make. They do have a recommendation for the commission board this evening, later in the agenda. And then we also have included in the packet the tech report and the content manager report. We're not going to get into that this evening due to time, but I did want to point out on page 20, also in your packet, to take a look at some of the data we've pulled through Q3 of this year, as we're looking at city meetings and video productions, and then hours of work for video productions. As we use this for calculating our return of value to our member cities. So it's an updated version. We'll have another final version at the end of the year, as well as actuals. That's all I have for my report.
Very good. All right. Treasurer's report.
Yes, I will take that. I do have actuals through Q3, through September, for your perusal. I just wanted to ask if, it looks like, revenue income is on tracks and expenses as well. Any questions regarding the actual P&L? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Looks good.
I anticipate we'll have an actual for the end of the year sometime mid-February.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Then legal report. Anything, Mr. Bradley, that you want to comment on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My legal report's in the packet. Just a couple things of note. One is the FCC commissioner vacancy is still pending in the U.S. Senate. Couple of items of firm news for us. Our Attorney Tu Zhang was elected to the State Senate, representing District 44, I believe. So we're happy for him. I'll be speaking at an INA TOA coming up December 12th, talking about policy on the Hill and court decisions and all that kind of good stuff relating to cable television and telecommunications. And I'll also be speaking at the Oklahoma Municipal Association to a CLE there on December 15th on right-of-way management issues. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have none. Any other from the commissioners? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the heart of matters here now. Financial policy review and meeting compensation ordinance, which we've discussed multiple times here. So we're hoping we can put this one to rest. So, Mark?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, in front of you, we have one more financial policy to review this evening, that project we took on this year. It's the meeting compensation policy. A number of options have been provided to the commission. At the executive committee meeting in October, there was a recommendation to approve an ordinance for compensation, similar to that of the council, member city councils. And I'll hand it over to our attorney Bradley to follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I think Mark has pretty much said it all. There's a staff memo in your packet that kind of outlines the different options that were being considered. We did not, as legal counsel, we did not recommend option 4 in that memo. But all 4 of those options were being considered. I believe it was the recommendation of the executive committee to follow option 1, which was the adoption of an ordinance. That ordinance is in front of you as ordinance number 2022-1. And I think the only thing that would need to be decided is the amount of compensation for meetings. And I think right now it's $50 a month that commission directors are receiving. And I think there was discussion about increasing that to $75 due to, basically COLA type of adjustments for the last 15 or so years. Happy to answer any questions you might have. The recommendation is at the end of the ordinance, and the recommended motion would be a motion to repeal the current meeting compensation policy, adopt ordinance number 2022-1, direct the executive director to publish ordinance number 2022-1 in the commission's official newspaper, direct the executive director to allow but not require direct deposit for commission directors, and to report all commission director compensation in accordance with the auditor's recommendations.
But we should probably also amend that with the actual dollar amount that we want set in the ordinance, right?
Yes, and amend the ordinance.
Okay.
Yes, accordingly.
All right, so this was approved at the executive committee level, so comments? I need some, Justin?
The amount that you approved at the executive committee level was the $75?
We didn't really formally approve the dollar
It
amount.
was more of a discussion
Yeah,
point
right.
of, that was the number that was thrown out
Yep.
due to the,
My follow-up question would be, what would the executive committee recommend?
I think we had landed on $75.
$75.
Yeah,
Then I will make the motion as indicated by our attorney, inserting the amount of $75 as the compensation number to land on.
any comments or second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right. There are no further comments, and
Does it require an effective date?
The effective date is,
Next, it's at the next,
yeah, it becomes effective from and after its passage and publication.
Okay. I didn't know if you needed a specific hard date or just, okay.
No, that'll be fine.
but it-
We originally had said it should be effective in 2023 because everyone gets reappointed, so you're not really doing it for your own interests. But I guess now, since it's December, it would be 2023.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so this meeting still falls under the old way, and so all future meetings after this will be under the new ordinance. Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second, so all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. All right,
I'm consistent, so.
the motion passes then. All right.
Yes, thank you.
All right, moving on to the 2023 budget. Mark, do you want to hit the highlights?
Yes, Chair. I've highlighted in the staff memo the changes that have occurred most recently between the last time the commission board met and today. In the revenue section, I did decide to cut back on revenue forecast by 3%. And that was just so we could be more prudent with the anticipated revenue that we're going to be working with, be a little bit budget more conservatively. It's still a changing landscape out there, so that's a good to implement that. The commission office, later this evening, we're going to discuss an MOU and the potential of relocating. We do have some flexibility based on that conversation with the investments we're proposing for next year in the commission office. We've done a number of upgrades this year, and throughout it all, we've taken the approach that we may be relocating at a future date. So a number of the cable-related capital expenditures that we've made are with the thought process that we could potentially move it to a new location. A lot of, like for example, our channel delivery system that has closed captioning capabilities now. Pretty much the same with the member cities, except for Woodbury, who's adding in Central Park design that does not include proposed SWCTC space. It's for all the other meeting and conference and cable-related capital improvements there at Central Park as it goes through a remodel process. So in total, we have just under $500,000 for the budget. That's historically about the same that we typically allocate. Again, as the executive committee directed me to convene the HR committee to look more closely at salary increases, the proposed 3% was I made that initial recommendation, and then also two other recommendations for two new job descriptions that we have in place, the content manager role and the technical manager role. Those are new job descriptions. And so there's a recommendation to make an adjustment for those staff members. So in total, if you taking the new pay adjustment for the new roles and the 3% increase, we're looking at a total of 8% payroll increase for 2023. When I convened with the HR committee, they directed me to complete further comp analysis in Q1 of next year. And the reason being is because we're still in the process of creating pay ranges for all of our positions and looking, I did receive some market data of similar organizations. We participated in a pay study this summer with other commissions in the metro, and so we have very recent data. And our recommendations, my recommendation for content manager and technical manager are based on that data, that raw data we received. And I was also directed to present a compensation policy in Q1 to the executive committee in February. The executive committee also directed me to convene the Relocation Committee to look at comparables to the MOU we're going to discuss this evening, and also the recommendation of allocating $100,000 in reserves for office relocation expenses expected to incur in 2025. towards that goal. So it would be a multi-year savings account essentially. And next year would be the first contribution in that fund. So with that, Chair, myself and the Executive Committee recommend approval of the 2023 budget. Happy to take any questions.
And being on the HR committee with Patrick, I just wanted to just further clarify our thoughts with that compensation policy was there really is no performance pay component to the staff's reviews. Right now, it's just the COLA only. And so we really felt like that the COLA is kind of the baseline, and then beyond that, employees should be able to earn something from a performance pay, depending on their, performance for the year. And so that's what we'd like to see brought in as part of that compensation policy.
Yeah. Well, and not to start another argument, but I want to be very precise when we talk about adjustments to pay.
Yep.
So it's an adjustment to pay. Using the word COLA may not be precise. It may create an expectation, or it may create a thought in somebody that may or may not be reflective of what this commission actually does. So, it was my desire or my thinking that, again, despite the fact that we're sort of a public commission, we have to operate in a marketplace, right? Where we have competitors, we have other private parties, we have public entities. So we're competing for talent. So when we're out in the market, part of developing this compensation plan is how do we be competitive in the market? And so I just want to be real careful. Like, our thought is we want to be competitive, and we want to use precise language, and we want to develop, really flesh out a compensation policy that makes us competitive and is informative to the commission and is informative to the staff, so they know, okay, this is what the commission wants, this is what we can expect if we're going to be an employee here, this is what we can look at, here's the places where we can improve, or we can get a possible performance adjustment, whatever it may be. So I just want to make sure we're using precise language, and that I think, again, this policy or these ordinances that we wanted, they're in the infant stages. We really want to work them out and make sure that everyone's on board and that they're appropriate for the commission budgetarily, and that, again, we're being competitive in the marketplace for talent.
So any other questions or comments on the budget? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about compensation as well. The 3% number makes sense, but understanding the current market conditions across several different, lines of work, whether it's retail or whether it's hiring government employees, et cetera, it feels a little light. And I wonder if there was any dialogue about whether or not we should take another look. You're giggling, go ahead.
Oh, there was a lot of dialogue. Okay, yeah, there was a lot. Yeah.
Whether we should take another look, early in 2023 to figure out whether we hit the sweet spot or not. Because, I myself, I'm a multi-unit supervisor in a retail environment, and I can tell you that our compensation this year has definitely changed. And changed for the better for the employee, but it's a situation where you have to pay to play. That's basically how it is. And Patrick, you said it perfect with regard to we're competing for talent.
Right. And one of the things we talked about is we have to develop a metric that all of us can agree on. Like, this is what we're going to use to measure what's an appropriate adjustment to the base pay, and frankly, what's an appropriate adjustment to even for performance. I mean, we can't have them sort of spiraling out of control. So yes, there was discussion about, and again, goes right to my comment, is we have to be very careful about the language we're using. Because we're talking about, are we adjusting your pay, or are we giving you a COLA, right? Because those are very different.
Yes, they are.
And there was a good debate, there was a good discussion, and this is what I'm saying, is this policy, I think, is in its infancy, so we need to decide as a group, what metrics do we use to decide what is an adjustment, what do we call it, how much is it, how little is it, is it automatic, is it something we review year to year, is it pegged to some other independent number? So we had a really thorough talk about all the sort of, well, probably not all, but many of the nuances that we as a commission need to work on.
Along those same lines, my second question is, when you talk about performance pay, that might mean different things to different people. And at least in the government world, you can't really do bonuses per se. You can do things like deferred comp or what have you. So I'm curious, when you use that phrase, pay for performance, are you relating that back to a performance evaluation that everybody would get on an annualized basis? And based on that performance evaluation, there could be a compensation adjustment like many of us do in the private sector? Or are you referring to, hey, if we hit this metric, everybody gets $500? I mean, what are you talking about there?
It was the first.
Good.
Yes.
Good, because that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So, perfect. And I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, whether you work for a government agency or you work in the private sector, you deserve to know how you're doing.
Right.
That performance appraisal is an important process. It's an important document. Should never be a surprise. You know, people should be getting performance updates throughout the year, but when it comes to compensation as a result of a performance appraisal, that's a very important element of that, and we have to be, I love the word precise, we have to be very precise about this rating equals this rating equals that, this, you know, so on and so forth. And I think that's a very fair and reasonable way to do things. I'm definitely supportive of that.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on the budget? And if not, I'd be looking for a motion in a second to approve, formally approve the budget.
Motion to approve the budget?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstaining? All right. We are good.
Thank you.
All right. Mark, the last time, strategic plan. Final discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In front of you this evening is the final review of our three-year strategic plan that was initiated in early 2020. We've gone through multiple conversations about this, and I've tried to incorporate as much as the feedback as I've gotten from the commission and the staff. I think we're clear on, my sense is that everyone is clear about the plan going forward. Essentially, the big two changes from our current strategy is historically we've worked very closely with our member cities and do everything we can to provide great customer service, a return of value, and cable-related capital investments, and so this plan clarifies a new area, a couple new areas, allocating some staff time and commission time to look at community engagement. A few years ago, we dissolved the public access side of our house, but what we found through the responses that we've received through the strategic plan, is that there is a way for us to provide what I call indirect return of value through our community back to our member cities. And so what this plan does is it gives us the latitude to pursue those opportunities and still maintain the majority of our focus on our member cities. It also gives us an opportunity to look at diversifying our revenue a bit as we have a changing landscape out there. This plan gives us the opportunity to look at enterprise opportunities that are within our lane of work, which is government work. There's many opportunities. We have done some work for hire projects with other government agencies, and we want to continue to do that. The direction I've received from the commission is that we will take that on a referral or as able process, or word of mouth if if it works for our commission, we'd be happy to provide that service at a fee. The center diagram shows that kind of allocation of our time, in particular for staff, that we're still focusing the majority of our time on our member cities' services and incorporating new community engagement opportunities and financial, long-term sustainable options. And that also includes renewing our cable franchise for another up to 10 years. I want to thank you for all your input into making this happen, this one sheet happen. The recommendation this evening is that we approve the 3-year strategic plan.
Very good. Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
I'll move that we approve the strategic plan.
Second it.
All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
Great.
very good,
Thank
Mark.
you very much.
All right, new business. Central Park Memorandum of Understanding. Mark, you want to kick us off with a discussion of this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned at the executive committee meeting, I was directed to convene the Relocation Committee to look at a number of options, including the City of Woodbury's city offering to be included in the Central Park redesign, and that's really the crux of the MOU. But the Relocation Committee, I'm sorry, the Executive Committee wanted to look at comparables, and so we convened the committee and looked at some comparables. I was in contact with a commercial broker who identified some properties that he felt were comparable. He was given the direction to look at all of our member cities. And I presented that information along with our space needs going forward and other cost-benefit analysis. The Relocation Committee has looked at all the information and came to a consensus that the Central Park location would be most ideal and made a recommendation that's in front of you this evening to approve the MOU. And so before we go any further, I'd just like to state that I unequivocally could not recommend more strongly the approval of this MOU. And the reason being is because there's no comparable to Central Park. There are comparables to our current location. There's many of them. But there's not a single comparable to Central Park. It has unique offerings that aren't available in any other part of our member city locations currently. It's a community hub, and we're a community media organization. We belong in a facility like this. We can grow further and do greater things in a center like this. The exposure and of being in such a centerpiece building would bring new brand awareness to us. The public gathering that occurs there is unlike any other place. And the other tenants that are there, we have a unique opportunity to collaborate and partner with them, such as Washington County Library and Washington County Schools. One amenity of that space is the amphitheater. And so that amenity alone, the ability to have live performances there, would give us an opportunity to bring back arts and culture back into our organization. I, previous to being in community media, spent 10 plus years in live events and live staging. So that venue is near and dear to my heart. It would unlock a opportunity for us to do a lot of great things in that facility, being so close. This is a win for our communities and our citizens. And I just want to say that our future leaders will appreciate the work and care we put towards this decision. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
Okay. Other comments, questions from commissioners?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions. I'll start with the questions. We received a updated MOU via email today, just after 3 p.m. What was the genesis of that? Why did we get an updated document?
Can I turn over to our attorney?
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, there was amendments made to the MOU about a month ago that was shared with the commission. And when Mark and I spoke this morning, I had asked if anybody from the city of Woodbury had seen those amendments, and they had not. And so,
To our knowledge, they had not.
correct, yeah. There was no affirmative statement from Woodbury that they approved the amended MOU. And so I suggested to Mark that that needed to happen before your meeting, so that if you were inclined to approve the MOU, that it was the MOU that was acceptable not only to the commission, but also to the city of Woodbury. So we had a call then with Woodbury, because they did not accept all the changes. And so Mark's email to you today showed the original red line that was in your packet, and then the changes that were made just around noon today that were put together and given to you all tonight.
Okay, so I want to delve a little deeper into that, sorry. You answered the original question, which I appreciate, but then you led me to some other questions. So just to recap, the document that we saw in our packet originally is a document that the city of Woodbury had not seen? Is that what you said?
I think that might be true.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but I do know that if you look at the red line, you'll see two colors. Red is red lines from the city of Woodbury, and then the blue is from the commission.
Okay,
And so the city of Woodbury obviously saw the red, right? But I don't think they necessarily saw the blue.
A number of city representatives received the packet, the original packet.
yep. And to go back to that point, you say the commission had made the blue adjustments, right? And when you say the commission, are you referring to the executive committee?
I'm referring to me.
Oh, you're referring to you?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
referring to,
All right.
to me as the commission's attorney.
I see,
Yes.
okay. I was trying to understand if those changes were a result of something that potentially the city council in Woodbury had recommended, or what exactly occurred to give us this new document 4 hours before the meeting that we're supposed to vote on versus the original document, because clearly that's not ideal. It would be best to have the the cake fully baked before you're asked to vote on it. The second question I have is in the original document, there was a clawback clause. That clawback clause essentially said that if we enter into an MOU as a commission for Central Park, and at some point the commission decides we don't want to execute on that lease agreement, although it's not a lease agreement, it's an MOU, which is non-binding, that the commission would then be subject to cost reimbursement to the city of Woodbury for their planning and their design. Now, that is no longer part of the document, so that was you who took that out?
Yes.
Okay, very appreciative of that, thank you, because that was problematic. So my two comments are this. I plan to vote for the MOU this evening. I did not originally plan to vote for the MOU this evening because the original MOU was not something that the City of Cottage Grove leadership was comfortable with, but the changes were good. So thanks for taking the ball and running with it, so to speak, on that. But I would recommend that in the future, as we make big decisions like this, that everybody's at the table. Everybody has a clear understanding of what the objective is. And in full transparency, I had a meeting yesterday with Mr. Bloom and with Mark to talk about the original MOU and some of the concerns that we had as a city. And one of the things that Mark stated a couple of different times to us was, it's not about where we are. It's about what's in the facility for us. And I would argue that that's really the mindset we have to have is, at the end of the day, if the idea is that we need to provide support to our member cities, the commission leadership and the employees, their job is to then execute on the objectives as laid forth by the member cities. Regardless of whether they do that officing from home, whether they do that from the back of a van, it's still, that's the goal, that's the job. So the idea would be, I think, to ensure that we've explored every possible option to make that the best possible outcome. Because what you see today in the marketplace could be very different than what you see a year from now. And really, this isn't even gonna take effect until, did you tell me early '25? Is that right? And it's December of '22. Things change, and they change quickly. The reason I like the new MOU and the reason I'm gonna vote for it is because it does provide some off-ramps if we get a better offer at a later date. We're not married to anything, but I think what it does is it gives the City of Woodbury's administrator some comfort that as you work through the design phase for that facility, that, at least today, there is a rational, reasonable intent to be part of that project. But we all have to remember that that could change. The faces at this dais could change. Frankly, the faces in the office could change. And when those things happen, that creates a little bit of a different mindset relative to, well, what do we want to do strategically? So I appreciate, again, the fact that you took a look at that and you struck that particular item. There are some other things that you struck that were good as well. But it disappoints me to hear that the city hadn't even had the opportunity to go through it. That just shouldn't happen. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that those changes were made, and I look forward to voting for this.
Yeah, Chair, just to be clear, the City of Woodbury's staff did approve the changes.
Is there anything else, or would you like me to move to approve?
I just have a brief comment, and
Yeah.
mostly just to support Director Martinez, which is, I had the opportunity to be at the meeting and to talk to the staff from City of Woodbury and went over the comparables. As a matter of fact, one of the comparables is the building where my office is, so I was pretty intimately aware of what, the location, the amenities, et cetera, and I want to support and I think affirm the position of the director that the MOU provides us with access to a site that there really aren't comparables for. There's not a site that has sort of the intangibles or the or the tangibles. I mean, in terms of location, connectivity to fiber, it just, and it offers us an opportunity for a fresh build, right? We get to, we get to pick the layout, we get to pick the space and what it looks like. So there was so many things that weighed in favor, and there's so many, again, intangible things that you're not going to see in the MOU and you're not going to see in the lease, but there are so many things that are going to come with, that could come with the use of that space that all the other comparables just didn't seem to be able to measure. So, and I just wanted to, I guess, affirm that position or really kind of talk about, yes, we looked, we talked. It wasn't a rash or hasty call to say that this MOU is something we should sign, that we should give very serious consideration to Central Park.
I'll move to approve.
I feel, I just want to make one, for purposes of
I'll put a
transparency.
second
You
on
should get
the
a
board,
second
and
and then
then you
more
could.
conversation. Yep.
What's that? Because, just to be totally transparent, working for the city of Woodbury and living in Woodbury, I know the behind-the-scenes work that's going to be done in the design aspect of the building. And so the comment, the clause that you're talking about being pulled out, where total pulling that out, if there is, we've engaged an architect that will be doing design work for the building. And at some point, we'll be working with Mark and his staff to design their interior space, what they want for their interior space. Once that is done, that's accumulating some cost that then if we walk away, that would need to be reimbursed.
I didn't see that in the MOU.
I know,
Is it-
and that's
is it-
where
Is it in there?
So that's where, okay, that's where I don't think this is 100% finalized to just pull that out without that language.
So we shouldn't vote on it tonight?
Well, okay, so what,
Chair, you're the chair.
yes,
But we did talk to the
assistant
director for, what was his position again?
Community development.
Community Development Director, and he did approve it, and we did have discussion about it.
so, yeah,
And the thought was, Chair, is the city of Woodbury is the landlord. They're gonna be able to recover those costs, whether we're in there or somebody else is in there.
so I'm fine with the agreement that, the final language of this, I feel like, what I'm really going for is the heart of the conversation is, are we on board with the commission intending to move to, an analogy that was used for me was that this is kind of like a marriage. And right now, this is an engagement, that we're getting engaged. We're not married yet. We're not tying the knot. We're not at the wedding yet. We're telling each other, yes, I love you and I want to be engaged to you.
Was it pre-April, is that what you're saying?
And so the details, I think, can be, worked out because you've had good conversation. And I feel like what we're authorizing is, we're looking for the executive director to sign this agreement that's mutually acceptable to the commission, to the relocation committee, whatever, and our attorney. Yeah. And so if any Ts and Cs, any language changes on this, I feel like what we need to authorize is that Mark has the approval to sign this document.
That would be the motion.
That's what I would like to clarify is the motion.
Right.
Okay.
And to be clear, the current MOU is a memo of understanding. It's not an agreement.
Right.
It's a memo of understanding that today, the intent of this body is to look very closely at that Central Park option.
Yep.
What it does not do, however, it does not preclude the commission either today or tomorrow or next year
Totally agree.
from saying, we're no longer comfortable. We don't want to do that. We've had a better offer. The relocation committee was 4 people. And 2 of those people were staff members for the cable commission. So, to use the relocation committee as the be-all and end-all is a little bit challenging because that's not even a quorum for this body. And so it's great that they entered into that understanding. And again, I really like the new language. I think it's excellent. That clawback clause being taken out was a very appropriate and I think necessary thing to do. But again, it doesn't preclude the commission from at some point saying, gosh, maybe we want to build our own place. Maybe we want to buy some land and we want to build something else. If there's a new library that gets built, maybe we want to be part of that new library build. So there's definitely off-ramps to the memo of understanding, but it is a good memo of understanding. The way it's written, as of the 3 o'clock email I got today, makes me feel much better about it than the initial one. So that's again why I would say, I would move to approve it as written.
So first of all, I want to really thank you for your perspective and adding all of that context. That's really good to know and hear. And just really reiterating how important this commission is as a partnership for all of the member cities. And I think that's why it's been so successful for so long, is that we've always, as committee members, viewed it as a partnership. And I think that is how we're moving forward with it. We've had kind of a unofficial exploration, semi-official exploration of Central Park for quite a long time. And it is, really helpful for us as a city to move forward planning. And while I understand that in the future there could be, some opportunity or reason why this changes, on the other hand, we are moving forward with substantial planning with the intent that SWCTC is a part of it. And so our planning would be quite different if that wasn't the case. So it's really helpful to have just a little bit more than a handshake deal on that from our end. I want to be clear that it's an MOU. It is an intent to move there. It isn't an intent to explore it. And I want to make sure that exploration that's clear. And then I think this MOU can work. It's not perfect for us. It's not perfect for the commission. And that's where you find a little bit of compromise in it. So I would prefer to move forward with this MOU with Rob's clarification that the administrator would ultimately sign it.
May I chime in again, please? I'm going to ask the attorney a question. And everything that Commissioner Date said is true, but for one thing, which is, again, it's not an agreement to move into that space. Is that accurate?
Well, Chair and members, memorandums of understanding can be a little bit complicated and a little bit ambiguous, perhaps.
Deal with them in the development world all the time.
Yeah. So you're agreeing to start working towards a long-term lease, but there are options to decide not to do that. And there's options from both the city and the commission. And I think that's pretty typical of MOUs.
Exactly. It's an agreement to look at, hey, this is something we might want to do. But it is not in any way, shape, or form a commitment that says this is what's happening. All it says is, we really like what we see. We want to continue to explore it. We're looking at it. And so as it relates back to the costs of, design and architecture and all that sort of stuff, I mean, that's something that the city, whoever the city would be that was receiving this MOU, would be forced to front. It's just the way that works. When you build buildings, you got to plan for it. So it's wonderful to pass the MOU, and again, I'm supportive of that. That will give your design team some additional clarity that, hey, the Cable Commission really feels like this could be a good spot. But what I want to guard against is this sense that this is somehow a binding document, because it is not a binding document. That needs to be clearly understood.
And at the end of it, it says in section 5, or non-binding.
Correct. Yep, I read it.
Yeah, right. So-
At 3:07 PM today.
I'm in
the
agreement
new
with
one.
you there. Yep. Okay.
So again, it's a tremendous opportunity for a really great partnership to take the next level. But I don't want to be quoted in the minutes for this meeting as saying, we're absolutely going to do this, because that is just simply not the case. So I want to be very careful, or as Patrick said earlier, very precise about some of the language. But again, I would move that we approve the MOU and provide Mark with the direction to sign it and move forward from there, whatever moving forward looks like.
A motion and a second. Okay.
And it's to have the chair and Mark sign it. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you, everyone.
We're engaged.
We're engaged.
Yeah. We should have a party.
I want to see the ring.
Yeah. There you go.
You're gonna love it. It's a $30 million ring.
All right. The last new business item is moving ahead. We need to create a committee to nominate officers for 2023. So I think typically that has been a body of 3 people, I believe. Is that right, Mark?
Agree, yep.
Okay.
And I help to coordinate all the communication and help build the slate with the committee.
Okay.
We're looking for volunteers to put that, to accept nominations or make their own nominations for the officers. We will, during that process, ask current officers if they're intending to run for reelection in that process as well, and then we'll present the slate at our January annual meeting.
I mean, are you looking for people who aren't currently officers? Would that be more preferable?
Sure,
I mean,
yes.
I can help if you
Okay,
need that.
great.
Yeah, I can help as well.
Okay.
And you can self-nominate too. When we actually vote on the slate in our bylaws, we'll call for additional nominations from the floor that evening as well. So just to go through some of the procedural process.
And would it be your intent to have the small group meet at some point then
Yes.
in the near-term future and just try then to figure out who, are we soliciting nominations?
Yep, we'll
That
probably
would
have
be
a
the process.
communication before the holidays and then
Okay.
convene right after the holidays.
All right, will there be pizza? That's all I need.
We can make that happen.
Okay, perfect.
So we have 2, and we have 2 different cities represented. It'd be nice if we had the 3rd city represented. Just in all fairness. it'd be-
Pizza, Tracy.
Understand?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll be on. so.
okay. Thank you, Tracy.
That's fine.
Okay,
Thank you, yeah.
so we have that committee put together. Thank you very much. We look forward to your recommendations. Okay? All right. Very good. Moving on, commission comments and requests. Anything that wasn't on the agenda that anyone wants to bring up?
Just want to wish everybody happy holidays. It's feeling Christmassy with the snow.
Yes, it
We had a
is.
really fun event out here last night for what we called our hometown holiday celebration. It was the first annual, and it was magnificent. And it really put the Christmas spirit in the air, if you ask me. So I know not everybody celebrates Christmas. There's several other holidays that people celebrate, and I would just love to wish everybody happy holidays, however you choose to celebrate them.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I would be looking for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
We're adjourned.